Hello, my friends, and welcome to the Jeremy B. Hill Show. For those that are on their way to becoming the best version of themselves, finding their own success, these are the real-life stories, the goods and the bad, the successes and the failures from those leaders who have made it and those that are still on the journey. Welcome to the show. All right, my friends, I'm so excited. So I feel like Bruce Buffer should be introducing this guy. So today we have one of my dearest friends, Erik Anderson. So we've got Ernst Young Entrepreneur of the Year. Goldman Sachs has named him one of the top most intriguing entrepreneurs in the world. He's the founder and chief executive officer of the WestRiver Group here in Seattle, a private investment firm. He's the executive chairman of Topgolf Entertainment, the executive chairman of Singularity University, and so much more. I feel like I should be in the ring. Like, please welcome to the stage, Mr. Erik Anderson. How are you, my friend? Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Jeremy. That's an awfully kind introduction. So I can tell you're getting better at this now.
I am getting better at this. I feel like I need one of those ringside jackets on with maybe the sparkles and the glitter or something like that. You know, I don't know.
Something. Happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, my friend. Well, I know the demands on your calendar are bananas, and you're even amongst COVID are just pulled in 1,000 different directions. So thanks so much for sharing some time with us. And so for the one or two people on the planet it is that are not familiar with Erik or WestRiver, give kind of a thumbnail view on you and WestRiver and your place in the world and where you're finding inspiration.
Well, WestRiver has focused historically on providing innovation capital or integrated capital solutions to the global innovation economy. That's a lot of words. It really means we tried to connect the global balance sheet, in particular, working with some interesting sources of capital, and build some good partnerships with people like Silicon Valley Bank and others, to be an active and hopefully constructive participant in helping the best companies, in the world grow. That's what we did. Recently, we've added, as well, I'm sure we'll get to it today, some of our future thinking as I try to build the next 20 years of the platform as sort of a legacy and as a permanent investment platform, particularly in the Northwest. And otherwise, we've really gone to this whole point of, having diversity and diverse teams allocate capital.
Sure, absolutely. So how long's WestRiver been around?
In some form or another, maybe around 20 years now.
Wow, that's fantastic. So the Northwest is not, typically known as, the financial capital of the world, right? Like we don't look at, ideally, more often than not, Seattle as, an equivalent of a New York or a London or Singapore or otherwise. And so how did WestRiver come to be, and how did, Spokane boy end up in Seattle working with some of the most incredible families in the world? So how did this whole thing kind of come together?
Oh, well, every there's always a journey, right? I have a new thing. You haven't heard this one lately, but I said, the journey is more interesting than the location. So there you can, there's a new T-shirt or something for you. So we, I went through Stanford and Claremont. I ended up, Goldman Sachs and Booz Allen in New York. But I really came back for, what the kind of family values. I wanted to come back and be near my family. We started a family, here. So that's how we got all the way around the full circle.
Sure.
To, what we're doing, and, being able to go to Claremont and Stanford and, sort of gave that, there's always a stepping stone to some of these things, those brands and those experiences, and some good luck. And I tried to work hard, give you the opportunity to take the next step. And of course, that was the New York experience with, Booz Allen and Goldman, and then the decision to come back home and have children and be near your family. So it was a value-based decision that brought me back here, that round trip.
Right. Like more around the proverbial story of just like, we don't want to raise kids in the city, or is it, just different quality of life, not raising kids in the concrete jungle, or what do you think?
I think for me, it was about being closer, closer to my family.
Mm-hmm.
They were 70 when I came back. I didn't know how long they would live, and my mother made it to 99 and my dad made it to 90. And I used to tell them, if I'd known you were going to get that long, I probably would have stayed in New York at Goldman Sachs instead of taking 90% pay cut or whatever I did, right? Just even 2 years would have made a small difference,
That's
But, and then, I didn't want to have other people look after my family when, when they were aging.
yeah.
My sister was well established in California with her family. It wasn't really probably the right thing for her, to make that change at that time. So, we moved back, to Beverly Hills or whatever
Yeah, right.
right.
Going back to Beverly Hills and packing. I get it. So you spent roughly what, 10 or 12 years or so in the city though, right?
Yeah, eight to 10 in New York. It was about 8, I think, when that all came up, 8 or 9.
And then when you left New York and came back to the Seattle area, came back to the Northwest, was it straight from Goldman to turning on the lights at WestRiver, or how was the?
No, I worked with a couple families,
Okay.
actually 3 really. I worked with the Stewart family when they were working with Food Services of America, and that was interesting. And then I worked with Alan Frazier, was a partner with him and Frazier and Company.
Sure.
And then I worked with a couple other families before I started WestRiver.
Okay, wonderful. And so was the thoughts of WestRiver then what it's become today, or has it kind of taken a journey of its own? How did the idea of hanging out your own shingle come?
Yeah, same journey again. I met Gary Brinson through some activities, who's a globally recognized investor, and he had recently retired. He'd been the CIO at UBS, and he had a significant investment portfolio of his own. And we had connected on some ideas, about I'll say working with a bespoke high risk asset class. Not even really something where we thought we were trying to build a track record. It wasn't even venture in that way. We put it together thinking we could make one investment, out of the whole portfolio. So that's not a portfolio management approach. And so we put together the beginning of WestRiver, and out of those, out of all that work, really came, 2 investments that were meaningful, Topgolf being one, and then DocuSign being the other. So those were 2 good ways to go.
That's a pretty good start.
Yeah, that worked. Yeah.
That worked. So talk about setting the bar kind of high, right? So it's, I remember, do you remember Nora Jones, right? The singer.
Sure.
Remember like her first album, I think she won 9 Grammys, right? And so there's this picture of her at the Grammys, her first year, holding all of these Grammys. And it's kind of like, so what happens next year, right? Like if your opening 2 investments are DocuSign and Topgolf, that kind of sets the.
Well, we had more songs that maybe didn't make it all the way out of the studio. So I don't want to. We like to characterize ourselves as enthusiastic and humble. So people know those. We had several that were not successful. But for your audience, and that's the nature of what we were trying to do, right? It's the nature of this. This business that I'm in, which was working hard to create and work with, creators or entrepreneurs to help them, create their businesses and build them. And
Sure.
so those were 2 that came out of that activity.
So how much of the early times of the business, and so coming out of the gate with 2 pretty significant winners, did that?
Yeah, it took 15 years. 12 years. They went out of these were long builds. You mentioned in one of the notes we were talking before this. Gary and I took a very long-term view of this. We weren't, I wasn't trying to build a track record, get something out, raise another fund. We were trying to look at some fundamental companies, and then we were able to stay in them for a long time. So those are notable, but the realizations were a decade after we made the investment.
They're notable now.
They're notable now.
Right. Exactly. Right. And so, starting off, the proverbial story for most people when they're starting whatever their endeavor is, whether it's in the wealth management money business or the fund business or whatever it is that you're doing, it's a lot of this early stage stuff to where it's, long hours and lots of coffee and lots of whiskey and working 7 days a week and all that kind of thing. What was early WestRiver days like?
Well, they were really, they were interesting to begin with, because anytime you start with fresh capital and a great partner like, Gary, who's just a great partner, and some good friends in the neighborhood, I knew some of the local people.
Mhm.
We saw some interesting things. Of course, I always say buying and investing is easy. Building and surviving and selling is hard. So, that's just my experience. I don't know other people's, like, this is every investment you make, you have high hopes for, everybody likes everybody. The entrepreneurs like you like the entrepreneurs, and it's all great. And then life happens and you have to work through all the challenges.
Sure.
And I mean, we all know that story. You just can't place enough value either on persistence or grit or, not giving up, because it's just, at least for me, that was the nature of getting through the whole process. So early on, it is fun and you're full of hope, and then you buckle, you sort of get in the saddle or whatever you want to call it. And then it's a long ride,
Yeah.
and you just keep working.
And there is something to, it's I guess it's a 4-letter word, only it's a positive, not a negative. There is something to just grit.
Mhm.
I think the one of the things for anybody, it is not only yourself, but a lot of the companies and entrepreneurs it is that you mentor, is that I've seen, and I don't know if you've seen this too, but there is a consistent theme in a lot of these guys it is that have just found a tremendous amount of success of just perseverance and just grit, and just every day you just wake up and lace up your boots and go at it again.
I think that's right.
Yeah. And interesting. Early on for WestRiver days, was there the motivation behind this? Was there either a hole in the market that you saw, or was there somebody that you saw that you were chasing that said, I could do this better, or there's a gap over here people aren't exploring that I feel like there's opportunity there? Or what was kind of the motivation or assumptions behind it?
Well, when you're small, we maybe had like $50 million of capital. It was small. I was raising kids at the time, so I wasn't trying to, build the largest thing in the world. I was trying to do some good work. Gary and I had some ideas. I think the only, Seattle could use a little more capital. That's kind of always been the Seattle story,
Yeah.
when it comes to the venture world. And I think Gary and I had the ability to think long term, which again, I wasn't looking toward a track record. So it was patient capital.
Right.
And so I'd say those were our two advantages: a little bit of underserved area, and then the opportunity, right, to have patient capital.
Right.
And we were generalists. You don't, DocuSign and Topgolf do not come out of the same calling effort.
Right.
Those were, and we were, I think we were, and I think we could be patient, as we thought about the things we might do and might like to do.
Yeah. So much of what it is that we see oftentimes as teams are building, or as it sounds like, you've referred to Gary a couple of times, how important for you, and how important when you're coaching others, how important is the team and the people it is that you're surrounding yourself with, and the partners it is that you have? How critical have you seen, how critical has that been for you and guys it is that you've seen too?
Well, for me, I think it's been very critical. That's not going to be surprising. I think you can only see a few people who it doesn't seem to be as critical for, even though I know it's always critical. But I think of Elon Musk as someone who I think surrounds himself, but I don't know him, but but I have a little insight that he inspires. I don't know. I just think he's such a force of nature that, he's just driving through things. For me, the collaboration, and the wisdom and the insight from either people who work directly with me or probably the more important in my immediate circle, people like, like Gary and others, were really important to really test your thinking, and to make sure. I really like my model in West River has always been less about committed capital, but more about capital partnerships, where I'm comfortable being a leader and maybe being able to, be a little more aspirational, and then bring those ideas back to another set of rigorous partners who have real authority about the capital. So I just don't have to convince myself. And that then, through that process, some, aspirational thinking, maybe some insight coupled, with some really rigorous partnerships, I think has been a good formula for me.
Right. And you've had, I think, 3 or 4 very significant global families that we've discussed before. And are those the people it is that serve as that kind of capital partnerships? So rather than a typical, private equity fund model where you have committed capital and call it down and this kind of a thing, this is more
the collaboration. We do create committed capital pools, but that's after the collaboration. It's less of, oh, I've got an LP, we're going to do a big fundraising, this and this, right? We had some ideas about, the being significantly involved in the global innovation economy and building partnerships and being thoughtful. So that's what we've done.
Yeah. And I've got to think because, obviously for us and my own, right, we're in fundraising mode and, I've got to think.
God bless you. God bless you.
Oh my God. I need a therapist on staff. For sure. But everybody, in the PE spaces, they're ever continuing to grow are, always pitching and always pitching and always pitching. And I've got to think it is for the partnerships it is that you have, is that it is refreshing to them to not have somebody come to them that always has their Oliver cup out, shaking for some coins, right? And really want to talk to them about more of a macro approach and forming a partnership, not just, hey, let's get another 100 million of committed capital and I'll call you when I need it, kind of a thing.
Right. We've stayed close working relationships.
Yeah, without a doubt. So so fast forward to today. So from where it is that you started. So most of the team in Seattle or all of the team in Seattle?
No, it's Seattle, LA, San Francisco now.
Okay. Fabulous. Wonderful. And you guys are what, 40, 50 people ish, like businesses?
No, we're really like 25.
25. Okay. So business is continuing to grow and doing well. And so one of the things it is that I know that you have always been a leader and kind of, out on the edge or, leading edge of this rather than bleeding edge, but the leading edge of this is really talking about the team it is that you're building. And in this world now it is that we're in, to where everything, we're all being more mindful of being inclusive and diverse and all these kinds of things. You have been preaching that since it was, before it was in vogue, I guess. And so
maybe not as popular.
right now, maybe not as popular. Right now it's you feel like companies are doing this because, not that they feel like they're forced to, but they have to, or that they should. And it seems like it is that you've been doing those things because you've always believed that it's the right thing to do and nobody's telling you what to do. You're doing it because it's the right thing to do. And so the team it is that you've built is candidly pretty fantastic. So tell me some of the thoughts it is for you that's, now in vogue, but has been a part of your ethos for a long time.
Well, diverse teams make better decisions. There's a lot of research on that. I was raised by a nurse. My mother built a college, so I also had a strong early foundation from in this case, my mother, a woman, right, as a significant leader. That was certainly, that part of the origin story makes a lot of things a little easier, and it's also a pattern in your head, of course. And then as you try to think about it, maybe a little more deeply, a little more completely, it really wouldn't make sense to exclude, half or more of the intellectual capital of the world from allocating the dollar capital.
Sure.
There's really no can't really think on any planet that idea would be the winning idea. And but it's objectively correct that the capital base of the world is, allocated by, a non-diverse team. We'll leave it that way, right? A non-diverse team. And so it's just the right, it's something that should have happened long ago, like many things. It doesn't mean all bad, that good things haven't happened. But it's the right time. And I think people are coming both to, a social awareness and a moral awareness, and importantly, an intellectual awareness that the data suggests that diverse teams do better. So it should be compelling. I think it is compelling. And I do believe we're going to see, substantial progress. My partners and I are happy to be, a part of that progress, maybe getting some credit for leading, some of the time. But, the data is clear. And I think the moral and logical imperative are equally clear.
Yeah, without a doubt. There's just it's a diversity in perspectives, right? Like it's
it's where you raised, what you've done, color, every orientation. It's just, all those perspectives, and then really building the culture that allows those to thrive, right? So what you're not trying to do is take all that diversity and then make it look like, right? X, right? Okay, now we all get to think, what we're going to do, right? Here, right, we're trying to, celebrate and include that diversity.
Right. That's wonderful. Well, you're doing a great job of it, and I would imagine it is that it will continue to find favor for you. So I'm happy for you on that. So today, 20 years ago, when you were leaving New York and coming out here, did you think, now you're 25, 30 people, multiple offices, you own magazines and interviews and all the other kind of stuff, is like the most interesting man alive or something, like not the Dos Equis guy necessarily, but maybe the Tapati guy or the Don Julio 1942 guy or something, I don't know. But is West River and what it is that you're doing, even outside, and the boards it is that you're on outside of West River, is the Erik today what it is that you thought you were going to build into 20 years ago? Did you see today then?
I don't think you can see forward very well. Some people maybe have a very, maybe think that way. I've found for me more helpful is to two things: work on principles, find some important principles, really be open-minded. And I spend a lot of time on not just what we're doing, sort of what we call execution, but also what we could do, what we could think of as options. And I suppose if I spend more time than other people on something, it's probably because I think maybe a little longer, a little harder, a little deeper about optionality, and am comfortable accepting optionality as a thesis to select the direction either I would go, or I'd advise a company to go, or where our capital would go.
Okay.
So Topgolf's an interesting thing. You could think of it, we early on, we said, gee, there's 4 walls, put up nets, you hit golf balls, looks like any other location-based business. But I saw us, as, the ability to get outside of the 4 walls and the ability to build a community around the idea of the sport, not just the competitive side of the sport, the social aspect. So then that incorporated, buying things like a Pro Tracer and WGT and things that created, an integrated, sports and entertainment community. But that was sort of deep optionality in a way, right? That was like people saying, so how many of these are you going to build? And they go, well, probably quite a few. But what they didn't say, I always think what's interesting, if you're talking to Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk, it's not what you're doing. Why would you just tell me what you're thinking?
Right. That's
right. It's like, I always want to know what he's, it's like, because we know what he's doing was the result of something he thought 5 years ago.
No, that's
I would say current EBITDA is a result of decisions you made 5 years ago, right? It's not. So the question is, your future is about what they're thinking. I don't know how you get that in an SEC disclosure, the hi, what is Jeff? Here's the earnings for the day, revenue, risk factors, and this is what Jeff's thinking. I don't know how that rolls through, but I'm pretty sure that everybody would go to page 2. This is what Jeff is thinking,
Right.
because it's about the future. It's about the optionality. It's about combinations. It's about growth. It's about possibility. So I myself, having tried to pay attention to where other people have had obviously massive success, try to identify that, I think they're a little more open-minded about optionality as opposed to just what they're currently doing.
Yeah. Well, the from the genesis, and I remember the genesis story for how Topgolf started, but going from that to, I don't know how many locations you're at today, and then partnerships with MGM that you guys have done in Vegas, which is just unbelievable. I mean, it's become a world-class entertainment brand that just, I mean, like people go nuts over Topgolf. I mean, just nuts over everything from the experience and the music and the waitresses and the food, and they just love it. Just people just love it. And it's that's an uber exciting brand, an amazing thing it is that you guys have developed.
Only took 17 years.
It's an overnight success, 17 years in the making.
Yeah. I told my son the other day, you guys started about the same time.
That's right, exactly. Look at what Topgolf's done, and you're still in college, buddy.
He's like,
That's fantastic. So today, I guess, so there's the Erik at WestRiver, and there's Erik outside of WestRiver. And so WestRiver today, tell me what are you excited about, and where do you see the future of the business going over the next, 4 or 5 years?
Well, I'm certainly excited about diversity and how putting diversity at the heart of your strategy, both to access opportunities, to access entrepreneurs and communities, and to put the thinking to work to make good decisions. I'm really excited about that.
Yeah.
We're actively working, with the technology investments, primarily in the Northwest, actively working with life science, actively working with the experiential economy based on the work off Topgolf. All of those areas are interesting. Recently, as as someone said, so in your spare time, you decide to do a SPAC and get into the decarbonization of the economy. And I have to plead guilty to that. Yes, we did do that with Riverstone as a partner. Again, for WestRiver, building, permanent themes and platforms that certainly would go beyond my useful economic life, as I might call it. So diversity is a cornerstone, decarbonization, really important. Obviously, life science, really important. Technology continues to be important. So I think we're on these really long-term themes that are just, that are really just started, that we can go to work on. So those are the platforms, those are the ideas, and then the principles and values that, would be a stable place, for the company.
Sure. So WestRiver continuing on with the innovation economy across the platforms. And then the SPAC with Riverstone was what, 2 or 3 weeks ago or something? You guys went public?
Maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago we finished that.
IPO was 200?
Yeah, 200. And with the green shoe, we're at 225.
Incredible. And so the intent there for you guys is really to focus on making acquisitions that have a significant amount in reducing carbon.
Right.
Okay.
We'll buy, that's a SPAC, typical SPAC, we'll buy one company.
Okay.
Probably with some pipe support, additional funds to hopefully identify a great company for, the public and public investors who put their confidence in us so we can build a good company, deliver good returns.
I'd bet on you. I throw my $50 in. I'm in. Throw mine in too.
I'll take it.
Okay.
I bet you know that about me. I mean, every time you've offered a coffee, a cocktail, a hot dog, I have been quick to say thank you.
WestRiver platform, you've always been doing great on. So the 3 things is we talked there, the SPAC side, and then just continuing on with the innovation economy, which is exciting. That's wonderful. And so aside of that, I think you're candidly have probably accomplished the majority of things it is that people hope to, that I hope to, that maybe a lot of the people listening hope to. And so, for most people starting a business, they're creating something because there's something they're burning for them, but they want to get past that point to where they're no longer worried about, putting milk and eggs in the freezer and doing those kinds of things. So you're kind of past that phase. God bless you. So what keeps you moving and running and those kinds of things? Like what keeps you still excited about what it is that you're doing?
Yeah, well, we like to build purpose-driven companies.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think those are Topgolf connected people in meaningful ways. WestRiver redefining the leadership model for the global allocation of capital, integrated capital solutions for the global innovation economy. Singularity, preparing the world, for exponential change and an abundant future. So I think when I pull these things together, finding great collaborations, nice partners, working toward things that matter, that you can believe in, and I don't see why that would change for me. I still find a lot of enthusiasm for there, and I mean I have been fortunate, and so I don't mind. That's what is it, pay it forward, and all these ideas about just trying to be, just stay engaged. I think it's really important for people who've had the experience I've had, and I would make this generic. A seat at Stanford University is really a valuable seat, and many, a lot of people who came before us, not just directly but indirectly, make those seats possible.
Right.
And then when you get that seat, and then you have some advantages, privilege, some people call it today, and that turns into some personal success. I really don't subscribe to the view that I've necessarily earned something, although I'm sure I've earned something. I don't know exactly what, and that therefore I should, stop.
Right.
Because it seems I'm just at a place where I still have some relevance. You like to be relevant. You have some experience, and you have some time, and you maybe have some resources and relationships that can really help, other people. Regardless of generation they're in, starting different places where you can play a constructive role in important things that make it better for people. And so I really enjoy that, and I like to continue to see investment returns, because that's part of that system. Of course, we have philanthropy, but that's very important. And I'd like to think that I have a few ideas and ways to help people. So I stay engaged, with that. My dear friend, Jeff Brotman, who passed a few years ago, we used to laugh about it. He goes, if I stop, I'm just someone with some money, and that doesn't make me very interesting. But he laughed. He said, but as long as I'm selling mayonnaise at Costco, I'm pretty interesting. So I remember thinking back, those are wise words from a wise and of course, great philanthropist, great business person, great family man. So I vote to try to stay relevant and helpful to folks as best I can.
So two things. Number one, like I don't see you ever sitting idle. Like I can't imagine you're spending your Thursday night watching The Bachelor or something like that, right? Like
I'm still trying to get on. I'm still trying to get on the show.
Yeah, right. So, but there's a point to where it doesn't feel like work, right? Because you're excited to solve the problem. You're excited to turn the Rubik's Cube and try to make this thing work. Not only for yourself, but the entrepreneurs you're coaching and the companies that you're invested in. You're trying to move them forward, and it's I don't know if inspiring is the right word, but it pulls you there. So it doesn't feel like it is that you're working. It feels like you're like working towards something, which doesn't necessarily feel like work. It just
the words I use for that is I feel as much like I paint as opposed to toil. There's a point in everyone's life, for most people's life, certainly in mine, where you're like a lot, some of for periods say I'm toiling, right? This is like the hot sun, and I'm picking up rocks, out of my nice field, and I'm trying to get it ready so I can plant something, and then if something goes right, and then something grows, and then maybe there's something to do with it, and then away you go. But there's a point And the reality is a lot of people, and many people don't get out of toiling. I mean,
Mhm.
just honest.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean they don't have the hope and they could do it tomorrow. But the reality is a lot of us, I know, when I watch, some of my family and other things, people work hard for a long time. And if things go your way and you have some advantage again, and I'm cognizant of Stanford and other advantages that I've had, you kind of feel like you've moved out of toiling. And to me, then it almost feels more like painting. And the
Mm.
fun part of, if you're an artist and can paint, and I can't, and this analogy only goes so far because I don't want people to think that, you're like, oh, you can do these things. But if you're a good artist, I always imagine what it felt like to be Picasso, because he would go someplace, he could do something in Picasso-like way and give it to you. And he wouldn't think he was giving up anything at all, because tomorrow morning he would just do it again.
Yeah.
Now, for most of us, right, it's like if we have one good idea or build a company or something, it's like, I don't know. I'm not Picasso. I don't know if I'll come up with another one.
Mhm.
I've probably in my own way found a way to find pleasure and some meaning in helping people maybe make their one and only painting. Maybe it's one of two, and then also giving them freedom, right? To continue to lead that, right? Not to try to make it mine.
I love
Uh,
it.
so I that's a way of drawing, maybe an analogy, to something that you can co-create with somebody. You can have fun. You can even maintain a residual interest, an equity interest in the thing, but you're not trying to make it yours. And I do think people oftentimes try to do too much, and they try to make everything theirs, where
Mhm.
they're trying to put all the intellectual energy into it, maybe control all these sorts of things. And there's some places where you should do that. And then there's many places where you can co-create with somebody and be helpful, but not try to make it yours.
Yeah. Well, I've been victim of that a number of times.
I think we all have. Yeah.
That you just try to control everything, and you hate to give it away because nobody can do it as well as you, or whatever.
Well, everyone can do things better than me. So I say, I got humbled early that way. So,
I get you. So, looking back on 20 years of doing this, and even more, if you consider New York and all that kind of thing, is there any decisions it is that you just wish you would have done faster? Is there anything that you wish you would have, conclusions you would have drawn sooner?
retrospectives always looks like you should do something faster.
Okay.
And in reality, there's probably truth to that. So I would say directionally, if you start to get that funny feeling in your stomach and you do some work, you should probably be willing to go faster. I think that's true. Most people are probably a little slow to change. And most people wouldn't probably think of me as being slow to change. Maybe I can't keep a job. Maybe that's different. Maybe it's changed. Maybe it isn't. But even then, even for, I guess, for someone like me, part of it is you could probably always go a little faster, and you might know the answer a little sooner. I think also that might be surprising. Uh, Two things for me that come to my mind. Maybe having a little bit more conviction more often, and look for places for conviction, and be willing to do that, where possible. And then I would say my final lesson, or things that is kind of try to find like who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And so I get a good fortune to speak to college students or different folks, and I'll say, well, who are you? How do you feel? Are you an investor? Are you a trader? Are you a leader? Are you a creator? Right? Are you a manager? Right? Are you a doctor? Are you a professional? All those things. Are you a writer? Right? All these things. And they'll look at you a little bit, because finding that space where you just naturally feel, and then not trying to make more or less of that than it's supposed to be. So the investor should be an investor and not be confused that, that they necessarily know how to run the company, right? Activist investor. There's a reason for that, but it's not because they're a leader. It's because generally someone's gotten stuck. So it's not, but if you're an investor, you set price, you have long-term, you should have patience. You should, you're an analyst, right? If you're a leader, you should get comfortable that other people might be better at setting price. right, of your company. I'm like, you know what, I'm leading it. Here's what it is, but you get to price it. And if it looks low, which it might be if you're a leader, you're like, hey, I don't want to get, tied up with the debate about somebody who's necessarily going to look at every comparable and do a bunch of things and think about the world of macro and all the things that going into being a good price discoverer. I want to be able to have a pure voice to tell you what we as a company are trying to do. And then, it's kind of a market view. I mean, I should be informed, but allow people who that's their whole job, right, to invest and maybe establish what they think the price is based on knowledge that they have that I may not have,
Right.
and macro views that I may not have. So that finding peace and comfort and confidence in sort of that description, of yourself, where I see people where you have funny conversations, a lot of conflict, or I see a lot of people in the ditch, is they think they've decided they're everything, right? They're the trader, the investor, the leader, the inventor, and the creator. And I'm like, I don't, maybe there's people like that. Musk, Bezos, I don't know. Maybe there's some who are like, I've got all of this. But for most of us, you can and be really honest about that.
Yeah.
And that changes in your life, by the way. You may be A when you start and B and C. So it's good. It's good to check in with yourself on that and then look carefully at those sort of things. But my final point on that, when a trader says, oh, I like to take risk, I go, no, you don't. You like to play a game. When you can buy into something and get out of it, and it's like, soybeans. When you're a soybean trader, you're not taking risk. You're just trading soybeans. You're playing a game, right? It's an intelligent game. When Jeff Brotman and Jim Sinegal decided to build Costco, right, and they got to put those things in the ground, and they don't know what's going to happen for a long time, they're actually taking risk, right? Because they're going to put all their life into this, and they don't get to try it again in 12 months or a week. They have to live with those decisions. So, I don't find traders to be risk takers. I try them. They're risk managers. They're insightful, but they actually hate risk. In fact, that's why they do what they do, right? They want to find the perfect arbitrage, which is valuable. Yeah. I'm not even saying it's not valuable. It's just they're not trying to take risk. They're trying to get rid of it.
Yeah, that's it. Let me ask you this: Do you consider yourself successful?
I have accomplished some things that are important to me.
Okay, so let me rephrase. Okay, so let me ask, what do you?
Yeah. So yes.
What does success look like to you?
It's not my favorite word.
Okay.
Because I don't really identify. I don't like people to self-identify as I'm successful, and therefore the flip side is I'm a failure.
Okay.
What I do identify with, it's an important word, is, again, think about, were you mindful about some of the things you were trying to accomplish? And again, it's going to be pretty rarefied air, right? I did it at Stanford University. It's, you're kind of running downhill. I was just, I've been kind of running downhill, for a long time. Right. And a lot of people are running uphill. I think, so my view is, have you been mindful, and have you, did some of the things you hoped and dreamed for come true? Or did you work at them? So, I know your children, you happen to know mine. So, I've sort of gone beyond pride. I have a sense of joy for my children that they've educated themselves, they're engaged, they're empathetic, they're working hard, they're making contributions, and that they can be fully engaged in their life. So it didn't mean they play, professional baseball player or did whatever, but I think they're quite developing complete humans on a good journey now. So I feel good about that. It was fun to build something, Topgolf and these other things. So I've accomplished some growth, and that can be interpreted as success or might be called success. But I think, but when you put dollars on it, that starts to create a measurement. It could be worth more, but I think it's a success. Anybody, I know you, we've all find something that we work at and accomplish. So I do think I've accomplished some of the things I hope to. And then I believe there's a lot more things to try.
Amen to that. Amen to that.
So I thought about that, but you can tell I've thought about, I don't like the common narrative of that, because there's too many people you and I know in common who, don't have don't get lucky, right? Don't get a 0% interest rate environment for a capital intensive business for 15 years.
Right.
Imagine trying to build Topgolf in a 15% interest rate environment.
No,
That would have been no fun at all, Jeremy. No fun.
Yeah, and honestly, I never thought about it that way, because if you say yes, I am, or no, I'm not, right? Using that word successful, and if you don't give yourself that, then by not giving yourself that, you kind of immediately default in saying, then you're unsuccessful, which that's a shitty badge to wear too, right?
I just don't think that's the honest narrative of almost all people in life. Everybody has accomplished some things they probably wanted to. And we've all might have had other things we would have been interested to accomplish. And life is not over, even at my advanced age of 62. There's still hope for me. The rookie.
You're full of energy.
The rookie's got a couple more games, so maybe he'll do better in the back half of the season. Let's put him out there. We keep working with him. Maybe he'll do better in the back half of the season.
That's it. That's wonderful. Well, buddy, you are just a consummate gentleman, and full of energy, and just full of enthusiasm. And I can't tell you how much it means that you shared some time with us. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. So for those guys that want to follow you, or the 1,000 things it is that you're doing, where can they find out more information about you and WestRiver and everything else you're doing?
Well, we have the website at WestRiver is a good place. You can just always visit the places I happen to hang out, whether it's Topgolf or Singularity University. You can, you'll see whether you'll follow me directly, which isn't interesting. You can certainly maybe see at least where I'm spending some time and energy and what those organizations are doing.
Wonderful. My friend, you are an absolute gentleman. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing some time. I appreciate you.
Thanks for having me. Have a good day.
Yeah, my friend. Thanks.
Bye-bye. Yep.
Thanks for listening today. This has been the Jeremy B. Hill Show. If you liked today's episode, go on and give us a 5-star review. Not 4, but 5. And even more importantly, share it with somebody else. This is Jeremy B. Hill. Your success is waiting for you, but it's not going to wait forever. Go get it.